The legend of John Titor began in the early 2000s when a user claiming to be an American soldier from the year 2036 started posting on various internet forums. This person, who went by the name John Titor, asserted that he was on a government-sanctioned mission to travel back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer. He claimed this particular machine was needed in his time to debug legacy computer systems. Titor explained that he was making a stop in the year 2000 for personal reasons, including to visit his family and collect items lost in a future civil war. His detailed post about the mechanics of his time machine, which he said was installed in a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette, sweet ride, captivated many online readers. As part of his story, John Titor made several predictions about the future, the most significant of which was an impending American Civil War starting in the mid-2000s, escalating into a brief but devastating World War III in 2015. He described a future where the United States had fractured into 5 separate regions and life was much more decentralized and rural. While some of his more minor technological predictions were seen by some as accurate, his major world-altering prophecies failed to happen. Despite that his predictions didn't happen, the detailed nature of his post has cemented John Titor as one of the most interesting and popular legends of the early internet. This is the story of the time traveler, John Titor. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny, and we are back with another spooky story. Please make sure that you subscribe, like this video, and hit the hype button. Thank you. At the turn of the 21st century, the internet was rapidly evolving from a niche academic network into a global medium that we would spend all of our time on. Here, a figure emerged from the digital ether who would become a foundational character in modern internet folklore. Between 1998 and 2001, an individual using the pseudonyms Time Traveler Zero and John Titor appeared on various online forums claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. What followed was a sophisticated and compelling prank and also possibly a narrative experiment that captivated an online community. The John Titor story was a hoax, but it ended up being more than that. It was a prime example of participatory storytelling on the internet that blurred the lines between fiction and reality, using early internet forums to build a world and a legend in real time. On July 29, 1998, 2 faxes were sent to Art Bell, the host of the popular late-night radio show Coast to Coast AM. This program was known for its focus on paranormal and conspiratorial topics. The choice of venue was strategic. He was targeting a pre-existing audience highly receptive to these type of extraordinary claims. The faxes laid the groundwork for the entire Titor universe, introducing core concepts that would be expanded upon later. The author claimed that time travel had been invented at CERN in 2034 as a result of fusion reactor research. Always with the CERN fusion reactor research, right? And that the mechanism involved rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. The faxes also established the story's apocalyptic tone, predicting that the Y2K bug would be a genuine disaster, leading to the collapse of the U.S. government and the institution of martial law. One particularly intriguing element introduced was the concept of a temporal brick wall in the year of 2564, a point in the future beyond which nothing could be perceived, suggesting the timeline had been fundamentally damaged. The initial contact method was a staged rollout. By using this one-way medium of a fax to communicate with Art Bell's audience, the creators could establish the foundational lore and test the core concepts without facing any immediate scrutiny or questioning on an open online forum. The faxes were a narrative prototype, a beta test, or a pilot for the persona. This allowed the author to solidify his backstory and themes, the rollout of CERN, the apocalyptic future, the damaged timeline, before launching the more ambitious and interactive phase of the project. This was a calculated act of world building. It wasn't some guy just trolling online. The main act of the Titor saga began on November 2nd, 2000, when a user named Time Traveler Zero started posting on the forums of the Time Travel Institute. The initial posts were technical in nature, focusing almost exclusively on the mechanics of a time machine. The first post described the 6 parts required for a working temporal displacement unit and engaged with other users on the physics of this type of device. These early short and directed posts served to establish a baseline of technical credibility for this persona. In January 2001, the character evolved. The user moved to the Art Bell post-to-post BBS forum and adopted the name John Titor and began to flesh out the narrative with personal details and broader prophecies. He claimed to be an American soldier from Tampa, Florida in the year 2036 on a government-sanctioned mission. For approximately 4 months, Titor engaged with the forum community, answering questions, offering warnings, and building his legend. The performance ended as abruptly as it began. In late March 2001, Titor announced he was leaving to return to his own time. His final post was a cryptic piece of advice. Bring a gas can with you when your car dies on the side of the road. After that, he was never heard from again, leaving behind a digital mystery that would fascinate internet users for decades. At the heart of the Titor narrative was a compelling mission that served as the story's primary plot device. Titor's official objective was to travel back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100, one of the world's first portable computers. His presence in the year 2000 was explained as a personal stopover to visit his family, and a collect family photographs that were lost in the coming Civil War. The justification for this mission was clever. The IBM 5100 was supposedly needed in 2036 to help debug legacy computer systems based on Unix. These systems, Titor claimed, faced a catastrophic failure in 2038 due to the year 2038 problem, which is a real-world potential software bug where 32-bit time representations would run out of digits. Titor stated that the IBM 5100 possessed a unique feature that allowed it to emulate older IBM mainframes and debug their code, making it invaluable for preventing the future collapse. To add a layer of personal drama, he claimed he was chosen for the mission specifically because his paternal grandfather was a lead engineer on the IBM 5100 project. The mission was arguably the most brilliant element of the entire story. The IBM 5100 functioned as a classic MacGuffin, a plot device that motivates the protagonist and drives the story forward. It served as the story's primary engine. Unlike vague prophecies, the IBM 5100 was a real object with a verifiable history. The claim about its undocumented emulation feature was obscure but true, a fact later confirmed by IBM engineers. So this guy knew what he was talking about. At the time of the post, this was not common knowledge. This kernel of truth lent immense credibility to the persona, suggesting the author possessed insider knowledge. The IBM 5100 transformed a simple spooky story into a compelling mystery by presenting a piece of evidence that was both concrete and difficult to explain away, anchoring the entire fantastic tale with a sliver of reality. Titor provided detailed descriptions of his time machine, complete with the technical jargon and diagrams allegedly taken from its operations manual. He described the device as a stationary mass temporal displacement unit, manufactured by General Electric, officially designated the C204 gravity distortion time displacement unit. He claimed that the unit was portable enough to be installed first in a 1967 Chevy Corvette and later in a 1987 four-wheel drive truck. He listed 6 primary components: 2 magnetic housing units for dual microsingularities, electron injection manifold to alter the mass and gravity of the singularities, a cooling and X-ray venting system, gravity sensors or a variable gravity lock, 4 main cesium clocks for accuracy, 3 main computer units to control the system. The principle of operation involved the creation and manipulation of 2 microsingularities within the magnetic housing units. By injecting electrons onto their ergospheres, their mass and gravitational fields could be altered. The interaction of these 2 singularities would then generate what Titor called a standard offset Tipler sinusoid, a distortion of space-time that allowed for temporal displacement. It's a lot of technical jargon. Seems like he's throwing a lot of stuff out there to make it seem realistic. A lot of words, a lot of technical words to make it seem realistic. The most sensational aspect of the Titor story was its series of dire predictions about the future. And none of these prophecies came out to be true, which is the basis for dismissing the story as fiction. Titor's most detailed prophecy was that of the Second American Civil War. He claimed the conflict would begin in 2005, stemming from the civil unrest surrounding the 2004 presidential election. The situation would steadily escalate, marked by a Waco-type event that would steadily get worse, until it erupted into an undeniable full-scale war by 2008. The conflict would be fought between urban-based federal forces and rural militias over issues of order and rights. As a result of the war, the United States would fracture into 5 autonomous regions with differing objectives. Obviously, this war never occurred. According to Titor, the decade-long American Civil War would culminate in a brief but catastrophic World War III in 2015, an event he referred to as End Day. He claimed Russia would launch a nuclear strike against the major cities of the United States, China, and Europe, resulting in the deaths of nearly 3 billion people. In the aftermath, Washington, D.C. and Jacksonville, Florida would be among the cities destroyed. Not Jacksonville. And the new U.S. Capitol would be established in Omaha, Nebraska. That's a tough one. The post-apocalyptic world of 2036 was a society struggling to rebuild from this global devastation. This prophecy also failed to come to pass. I don't know if you're aware, but we did not have a nuclear war, and Omaha, Nebraska is not the capital of the United States. Beyond major wars, Titor also made several other specific predictions that didn't happen. Time travel at CERN. He claimed that CERN would discover the scientific basis for time travel by creating stable microsingularities around the year 2001. This discovery was never made. Unless you talk to some of the people who claim that CERN is doing time travel and ripping space-time, but that's not real, okay? I'm sorry. If you think it's real, yell at me at the comments and explain to me why it's real. He also stated that the Olympic Games would be permanently canceled after the 2004 Games due to escalating global conflict. The Olympics have continued. Titor warned that Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, a prion disease that is essentially the human form of mad cow disease, would become a widespread and devastating plague. Now, it's a specific health concern, but it's never reached pandemic levels like Titor has claimed. Also in the initial faxes, Titor claimed the Y2K bug would cause societal collapse. This was a common fear in 1998, but to some people's disappointment, the January 1st, 2000 passed with minimal disruption. Titor's prophecies failed, but the fact that Titor's story lives on stems from its clever use of scientific concepts to create an aura of legitimacy. He used a sophisticated blend of real theoretical physics with fictional applications designed to be plausible to an audience that doesn't know what he's talking about. Titor's explanation for his time machine mechanics relied on impressive sounding but scientifically speculative jargon. Like most snake oil salesmen, the core of his device was allegedly powered by two microsingularities. In theoretical physics, a gravitational singularity is a point of infinite density and zero volume, where the laws of physics as we know them break down, believed to exist at the center of black holes. The concept of creating, containing, and manipulating stable microscopic singularities is hypothetical and beyond the reach of current or any foreseeable technology that we have. The claim that these singularities produced a standard offset Tipler sinusoid is a direct reference to the Tipler cylinder, a genuine but theoretical concept proposed by physicist Frank Tipler. A Tipler cylinder is a hypothetical, infinitely long and massively dense cylinder rotating at near light speed. Such an object could warp space-time enough to create closed time-like curves, theoretically allowing for travel into the past. However, the concept is widely considered physically impossible. It requires conditions such as infinite length or the existence of exotic matter with negative energy, which Stephen Hawking's chronology protection conjecture argues would be prevented by the laws of physics. Titor's physics is a work of science fiction, co-opting the language of real complex theories to build a plausible sounding mechanism while conveniently ignoring the scientific consensus that such a device is impractical, if not impossible. When he was faced with skepticism about his predictions, Titor deployed his most effective narrative defense, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. He explicitly stated that this model, which suggests that every possible outcome of a quantum event occurs in a separate parallel universe, was correct. According to Titor, his act of traveling to the past did not alter his own timeline, but instead caused him to cross over into a new world line. He claimed his very presence in our time created divergence from his home reality, estimating the difference to be around 1 to 2%. Where he came up with 1 to 2%, unclear. Probably made it up. The concept provided a perfect built-in escape hatch for any and all predictive failures. Any discrepancy between his prophecies and our reality could be attributed to this divergence. This made his claims unfalsifiable, as there was no outcome that could definitively prove him wrong. And this is a hallmark of pseudoscience. This mechanism was great for preserving the myth, but it also creates a fundamental logical paradox within the narrative. Titor's stated purpose was to warn humanity of coming disasters. However, if his warnings apply only to a parallel timeline that is not our own, then his prophecies are ultimately irrelevant to his audience. His specific predictions of a 2005 civil war and the 2015 nuclear war are just stories, not actionable warnings for our future. The contradiction suggests that the author's primary goal was to build a resilient, unfalsifiable story. This is objective myth-making, not a coherent prophecy. The central claim about the IBM 5100 stands as the most compelling and debated piece of the Titor puzzle. Titor's knowledge of the computer's obscure and not publicly documented emulation feature was accurate. For believers, this was proof that set him apart from other internet prophets. For skeptics, this detail provides the most significant clue to the author's true identity. While the information was obscure, it was known to a select group of people, namely former IBM engineers and dedicated computer historians. The creator of the Titor persona was probably not a soldier from the future, but it was probably someone with a deep and specialized background in computer science. This evidence designed to prove the story's authenticity ironically became the key to unlocking the probable origin as a meticulously researched hoax. The Titor persona vanished in 2001, but investigations into its origins have continued, yielding evidence that the story was deliberate and well-executed fiction. Beyond the failed predictions, the Titor narrative is riddled with flaws that undermine its claim to authenticity. Skeptics have noticed that Titor's writing style, vocabulary, and even spelling conventions, such as using a hyphen in the word internet, feel more characteristic of the 1990s than a future dialect. The proof Titor provided, like photographs of his time machine and scans from his manual, was of very poor quality, even for the standards of the year 2000. The images were blurry and indistinct, making them easy to fabricate and impossible to verify. The central premise that a soldier on a critical top-secret military mission would spend months casually chatting on public internet forums, revealing details about his mission, his technology, and his future history, seems implausible. Seems like it's not real. The most widely accepted theory regarding Titor's identity centers on two brothers from Florida. A 2008 investigation by private investigator Mike Lynch, commissioned for an Italian television program, found no official records of any person named John Titor ever existing. There were subsequent online investigations, including one by the website Hoax, and it followed the digital and legal paper trail left behind. The evidence points strongly towards Larry Haber, an entertainment lawyer, and his brother John Rick Haber, a computer scientist. The circumstantial evidence is pretty significant. In 2008, 2003, Lori Haber established the John Titor Foundation, Inc., a for-profit company that published a book containing the forum post, John Titor, A Time Traveler's Tale. IP tracing reportedly linked some of the Titor activity to Celebration, Florida, where one of the Haber brothers was living at the time. The computer science background of John Haber provides an explanation for the highly specific and obscure knowledge of the IBM 5100's capabilities. While the Haber brothers have consistently denied their involvement, the combination of legal, geographic, and technical evidence makes them the most likely authors of the Titor story. The broader interpretation frames the Titor phenomenon as an early influential example of an alternate reality game, or an ARG. This theory suggests the story was a form of participatory interactive fiction that used the real world, or the internet, which is, I guess, close to the real world, as its platform. Some researchers have linked Titor to the earlier Ong's Hat conspiracy myth, another piece of internet folklore from the 1990s. Looking at it this way, John Titor becomes a work of performance art. The goal was to create an immersive and collaborative narrative that explored themes of technology, societal collapse, and hope, not just to trick people. The ambiguity was the point, inviting audiences to become investigators and co-creators in the unfolding mystery. Though the predictions failed and the persona has been largely amassed, the story of John Titor endures. Its significance lies in what is revealed about the power of storytelling on the internet. The longevity of the Titor myth can be attributed to several factors. The narrative tapped into deep-seated societal anxieties about civil unrest, nuclear war, and the fragility of modern civilization. And these fears stay with us today. Titor's story has a compelling interpretation of contemporary global tensions. It was also a good story. It combined a mysterious hero, a clear mission, high stakes, and an intricate blend of the familiar and the fantastic, making it far more memorable than a typical internet prank. And the story's built-in unfalsifiable logic allows it to persist. The many worlds defense creates a self-sealing belief system where the complete failure of the predictions is not proof of a hoax, but evidence that Titor's warnings were successful in altering our timeline for the better. For the believer, the story can never be disproven. John Titor is considered one of the first great myths of the internet age, a foundational text that demonstrated how folklore could be created and propagated in a networked world. His story set a precedent for countless online mysteries and ARGs that followed. The most significant piece of Titor's cultural legacy is a significant role in the acclaimed Japanese visual novel and anime series Steins Gate. This series directly incorporates the Titor persona, the mission to retrieve the IBM 5100, and a fictionalized version of the CERN as core plot elements. The adaptation introduced the entire Titor mythology to a massive new global audience, cementing its status as a landmark piece of popular culture and ensuring its memory far beyond the obscure internet forums where it began. John Titor was almost certainly not a time traveler from a dystopian future. The weight of the evidence shows that. He was a character that was the product of a sophisticated narrative experiment, likely created by the Haber brothers. But the true importance of the Titor story was that it demonstrated the internet's unique power to host and cultivate complex, participatory stories that blur the line between author, audience, and text. The story of John Titor is a seminal case in the birth of modern digital folklore, a ghost in the machine whose story continues to haunt our imaginations. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you click like, share, and hit the hype button. Follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there's a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it. Or if you're feeling shy, send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a link in the description of this video to buy me a coffee, so you can buy me a coffee. Or you can become a member of this channel. For the $1.99 tier, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive video, as well as access to my videos before they go public. I appreciate you considering this. I'm going to put the names of all the people who've donated to this channel here, and I'm going to put the names of all the people who are members of this channel here. Thank you all very much. You can also support me by clicking like, hitting the hype button, and continuing to watch my videos. And I do appreciate that you watch my videos. And please stay spooky.